So last year Icast was a pretty big year for bait finesse, but in my opinion, this year was even bigger. So I've decided to consolidate everything bait finesse at this year's Icast into one video. So let's get started. So naturally we're here at Tackle Warehouse's Icast page, but since there were really only 3 bait finesse reels that came out, we're gonna go straight to their brand pages, and we're going to start with the most expensive first. That's going to be the Bates Hundo. Where is it? Oh, here it is. The Bates Hundo LTS BFS reel. And yes, it is $395. Now let's take a closer look at this reel. And it's got like a darker gray finish than the regular Hundo it's based off of, but it's got a yellow or gold spool tension, gold drag star, and handle nut. You see how shallow the spool is. Better look at the spool, and this spool, as soon as I saw it, reminded me of the Umea aftermarket factory spool for the 2015 Aldebaran BFS. Looks exactly like it. So you got the holes on the side, and then in the middle the spool is ported with 2 holes and then like an oval. And here's another picture. It's a good looking reel, and because it's a Bates reel, I think the entire body is machined aluminum, and they are proud of it because they chose to leave the, I guess, machining marks in the frame. Now I will say this, I think that the spool tension and the drag star look like aftermarket parts you can buy off AliExpress. A little bit too much gold for my taste. They should have made the spool tension black and then given it some gold trim pieces or gold rings around it. But that's just my opinion. Overall, a good looking reel, but the knobs are not very finessey. So let's look at the details. So they call it LTS, which I think stands for Light Tackle System, instead of BFS, because I think Shimano had trademarked the BFS acronym here in America. But pinnacle of light tackle casting reels, the Bates Fishing Co. Hundo LTS, slit and gunmetal gray anodized aluminum, frame accent and anodized gold, lightweight, boasting a re-engineered spool and brakes, blah blah blah. Includes a custom neoprene reel case. So yeah, the entire frame and body is machined out of aluminum, 10+2+1 bearings, adjustable dual brakes. Now I think the brakes on these Bates reels are like similar to the Hybo or Rise brakes, where the spool has like a rotor cup, 88mm arm, 8.5 pounds of drag. The weight is only 5 ounces, holds 100 yards of 4-pound line. That's a lot. But yeah, once again, this reel, if I haven't said it already, is $395 before tax. And I went on Bates' website to see if they were going to give us any kind of information on the spool size and weight, and there was nothing. But taking a look at the spool, where's that picture? Right here. The spool to me looks huge diameter wise. It looks to be either 32 or 34 millimeter. Now there's nothing wrong with that, but it's kind of going the opposite way of the current trend of, you know, tiny micro spools that are under 30 millimeters. But I'm more interested in how much it weighs. And like I said, there was no info on Bates' website. Now, do I plan on getting one of these reels? The answer is no. I'm not paying over 400 bucks for one of these reels. Now, if someone wants to send me one to test, that would be great. I'll put it through a whole bunch of tests, make a whole bunch of videos. But yeah, that's the first reel and the most expensive, the Hundo LTS from Bates. Now, luckily for us, the second reel is much cheaper. And it is from Abu Garcia. It is, where is it? Oh, there it is. The REVO X BFS casting reel. That's interesting. They're using BFS as an acronym. Maybe Shimano doesn't have that trademarked. But as you can see, this reel is much cheaper at $149. But that is like, I think, $30 more than the standard REVO X, which, where are they at? Yeah, 120 versus 150. So let's take a closer look at this REVO X, and I think it's a good looking reel. Brown frame with silver side plates and splashes of orange here and there. Now the knobs are not very finessey, and neither is the handle, but oh well. And here is the spool. Best view we can get. It's pretty shallow, but I don't see any portholes. I do know with these new Revos with this asymmetrical frame, spools are like 32 millimeters. I'm not sure if this is smaller or not, but it looks to be about 32 millimeters. But it's brown with orange anodization accents. And nice orange color around the brake dial. So, I mean, I like it. I'm just wondering, how much does that spool weigh? I don't mind if it's 32 millimeters, but if it's like 12 or 13 ounces, I mean, what's the point? And the spool reminds me of the spool of another Abu Garcia reel that came out last year, the SXSS. And you can see here, this reel has a shallow spool. Looks like it has the same kind of little etchings on it, just this spool is all black. But Abu didn't tout this as a bait finesse reel. I think it was more along the lines of like the LEWS skipping reel. And as soon as I saw this REVO X BFS and saw the spool, I thought to myself, all they did was take the spool from the SXSS and throw it into the REVO X. But there is a difference in braking. This REVO SXSS has centrifugal brakes, while the X has mag tracks tuned for ultralight BFS techniques. And I wonder what they mean by that. But it's got 20 pounds of drag, so they didn't really do anything about that as far as finesse tuned drag. But they say super lightweight BFS concept spool. The weight of the reel is 7.2 ounces, 7+1 bearings, of course right and left hand. But yeah, REVO X BFS. Do I plan on getting one? Probably not, because there's really nothing about this reel that interests me. But I will say this, if you guys give me 500 likes on this video, that will tell me there's enough people interested in this reel, enough for me to get one and review it for you guys. So 500 likes and I will get a REVO X BFS. And doesn't give us a date on when they're going to be available. Just says this item will be ready to ship in approximately 14 days after you place the order. So I don't know what that means, but let's get to the last BFS reel, and it is the cheapest. Oh wait, let's see, when is the Bates reel available? Okay, so right hand's available now, left hand's available estimated August 9th. All right. So the last BFS reel was not technically introduced at Icast, but it was added on Tackle Warehouse's page about a week before Icast. That's going to be from KASTKING, and it is the Valiant Eagle 2. And yes, it is the much more desirable black and red color, and not that brown color that's really hard to match on a rod. So this reel has been available on AliExpress for, God, almost 2 years now. Good looking reel. But now it's available here in America at Tackle Warehouse. And it's around the same price, $79.99. It's only a little bit cheaper on AliExpress. But if you get it from Tackle Warehouse, I assume you get some kind of warranty with it, American warranty. Okay, 4.8 ounces, graphite frame, adjustable 7-button magnetic brake system. That's new. I think that might be a typo, because I'm pretty sure it's the same imitation Shimano FTB brakes, and I doubt they did anything different for the American market. But yeah, this KASTKING Valiant Eagle 2 is an excellent BFS reel if you're a beginner. It's very beginner friendly, casts pretty good, the spool's not too fast, brakes are very forgiving, and it looks pretty darn good. Now I have the brown one that I bought a couple of years ago, and I've done a few videos on it if you want to check my Bait Finesse playlist and see what this thing can do. So that was the last Bait Finesse reel that I know of that was recently introduced. So now it's time to get into, in my opinion, something more important, and that's going to be rods. So why do I think that this year's Icast was better than last year's Icast for Bait Finesse? Well, that's because this year looks like the manufacturer somehow read my mind, filled in a big gap in the Bait Finesse marketplace, and that is budget Bait Finesse bass rods. Now you can find all sorts of budget BFS rods on AliExpress all day that are ultralight power, can cast 1 gram, blah blah blah, but you won't find many, if any, BFS rods on AliExpress meant specifically for bass fishing. Now, of course, if you order from Japan and even here in America, there are a ton of Bait Finesse rods made for bass fishing, but they all start at around $200 and go up. So very cost prohibitive for anyone who is just wanting to, I guess, dip their toe into Bait Finesse bass fishing and they don't want to spend too much money just in case they're not into it, or just anyone who is trying to BFS bass fish on a budget. This year, some companies gave us some budget options, and I'm going to get to those last, but I'm going to show you the more expensive BFS rod options first. Alright, so we're going to go to the Icast page. We're going to go straight down to casting rods. And we're going to get to the most expensive rod first. That's going to be, here it is, the new 2024 Shimano Poison ADRENA BFS casting rod. Now, of course, Shimano, as expected, brought over the new Poison ADRENA line that was released or announced earlier this year in Japan, and brought them over to America, but this time they brought over one of their BFS models, and it is the 6'10" light power with the extra fast taper. And let's see if we can't really blow any of these pictures up, but it's a sick looking rod. Of course, it's got the full monocoque grip. with the new design of having the hollow butt section, which they don't give a picture of, ironically, even though that was one of the biggest features. Yeah, I don't get it. But anyway, you're looking at $380 before tax. Now, this is pretty funny. I have this rod, but in the very first generation Poison ADRENA. It was my first ever true bait finesse rod. And when did I buy it? I bought it, man, it's gotta be when the first generation Poison ADRENAs were released in Japan. It took them like a year or two before they came to America, but I bought it as soon as it came out. And I think at the time the yen was still really strong against the dollar. So when I imported that rod, including shipping, it was over $400. And now the latest model comes over and it is going to be over $400. But you're looking at a lure rating of 1/8 ounce to 3/8 ounce. But the extra fast taper is what I like. My first gen Poison ADRENA BFS 6'10" light power is one of the crispiest rods I have. I think the only rod that is crispier is going to be my LOOMIS NRX, and it's just barely crispier. And in all my years of bait finesse fishing, seeing it go from just bass fishing all the way to what we have today, I've developed a preference for BFS bass rods, and I prefer them to be at least 6'10" in length, and I prefer the lure weight to be on the low end 1/8 of an ounce, going all the way up to maybe 1/2 an ounce. But I want an extra fast taper. So anyway, at $379.99 I can buy this much cheaper from Japan, even with shipping. But the only thing that turns me off about this rod that makes me not want to buy it is, for some reason, they went with orange for the accents instead of red. And I know that shouldn't matter, but my first generation Poison ADRENA I think looked better. So anyway, that's one rod from Shimano for BFS bass fishing. And it looks like they've released another Zodius BFS rod. And it's a 7-foot long, extra fast, 3/32 of an ounce, which is about 2.5 grams to 5/16. 7-foot long. Now I actually have the 7'2" light power or medium light power, and I wish they had this available when I got that rod. I'd have been fishing it and testing it, and I plan on releasing a long-term review video on that rod, but I would have much rather had this rod. But this is $220, much cheaper than the ADRENA, but still pretty pricey if you are just starting out in bait finesse. Alright, so DAIWA came out with a few bait finesse offerings. Where are they at? Here, the DAIWA PX Bait Finesse BF casting rods. PX is short for Pixie, and there's some good looking little rods. Of course, these are supposed to complement the TATULA BF70 and the PX BF70. You can see they're black with red coloring, but these start out at $300, and they only come in one length, 6'8". They come in 2 powers, ultralight and light. So here's all the technical jargon right here. Now there's a 5-year warranty, that's good. But the lure ratings are 1/16 ounce to 1/2 ounce for the light, 16 to 3/8 for the ultralight, fast tapers, and yeah. Now I think one of these is like a composite glass that's meant for like moving baits. Can't remember which one, but I don't plan on getting these rods because I have several rods from Major Craft that have pretty much the exact same specs and around the same length. They should have brought or made these rods at least 6'10" to 7 foot for the American market, in my opinion. But there's another option from DAIWA. So this is it for, I guess, the expensive bait finesse bass rods. Now it's time to get into the budget rods, and there were quite a few. And with that being said, we're sticking with DAIWA because they have come out with a TATULA XT bait finesse rod, and it's only $99. Now, the Bassmaster website had a Icast preview and they listed this rod, but I think they mistakenly said that it was going to come in a 6'11" model, which had me really excited. But it turns out they were wrong because it only comes in 6'5". And it's a good looking rod, very clean, black and silver, so it's going to match up with pretty much any reel. It's got looks to be a beefy handle, so it should balance well. But let's look at the specs. Once again, 6'5", light power 1/16 to 3/8 ounce. So yeah, I mean, I have a ton of old school major craft bait finesse rods that have the same length and lure weight. So I was really hoping that they were going to have like a 6'11" model for $99, but unfortunately Bassmaster's website was wrong. But you know, if 6'5" is your deal, if you're doing like creek fishing and whatnot, and this lure weight is what you're looking for, this should be a bargain. $99. TATULA XT Finesse BF casting rods, and it's on back order. So maybe they sold out as soon as they got them. But yeah, a budget bait finesse bass rod, only $100. Now, if you want me to try one of these TATULA XT bait finesse rods, get me to 300 likes. 300 likes and I'll try it out. So Abu Garcia, they came out with a few budget bait finesse options, including their own $99 rod, the Veritas BFS casting rod. But this rod is significantly more appealing to me for bass fishing because it comes in a 7'1" length. And I mean, it's a clean rod, just like the TATULA, mostly black. Looks like it's got some white on the blank. But it's 7'1". It says medium light and medium. That's weird, but 1/8 ounce to 5/8 ounce for both. One is moderate fast, one is fast. I would prefer the fast. And 3-year warranty, that's good. But this is definitely a rod I am going to get. The Veritas 7'1" medium, 1/8 ounce to 5/8 ounce. Let's hope that 1/8 ounce low end rating is not BS. And this one also says it will ship approximately 14 days after I place the order. Wow, I'll probably get this after I come back from an upcoming trip and fish it through the winter. But yeah, I'm definitely getting one of these. I mean, only $99. Now, there is a Veritas LTD. I guess that stands for limited. For some reason, they're $30 more, $129.95. I haven't really researched what the difference is that make them more expensive, but check this out. They don't have a bait finesse model per se, but if you look at the rod lineup, you'll see there's one that's 6'10", medium light, fast taper, lure weight 1/8 ounce to 1/2 ounce. Perfect lure rating for a bait finesse bass rod. Now it's shorter than the other Veritas, the cheaper one, and it's $30 more, of course. So I think I'm gonna not get this one. I'm just gonna get the $99 one. And one more thing on these Veritas. Now this is the regular Veritas, but if you go to their lineup, you'll see they have a 6'10" fast. Is that the same rod? A 6'10" medium light fast 1/8 ounce to 1/2 ounce. How much is it? This one's only $100 or $99.95. So it's very similar to the official Veritas BFS rods, just shorter. So yeah, there are several, I guess, BFS spec rods in the Veritas lineup that are not officially called BFS. Alright, so we're gonna get to the LEWS and their offshoot called Mach. Okay, so the Mach 1 Gen 3 casting rods, only $79.99. Now they're all white and they have that that rubbery grip, which I personally think will probably dampen sensitivity. But check this out. They have some BFS type models. 6'9" medium light fast, 1/8 ounce to 3/8 ounce. That is a straight up bait finesse lure rating right there. And then medium moderate fast, 6'8", 1/8 ounce to 1/2 ounce. Down here, 7 foot medium moderate fast, 1/8 ounce to 1/2 ounce. Look, medium heavy, 3/16 ounce to 5/8 ounce. Fast, 7 foot long. So for 80 bucks, even though the color is not to my taste and the styling, this Mach 1 Gen 3 casting rod looks to have some viable bait finesse options if these lure ratings are true. All right, let's get to the LEWS. According to my notes, where is it? LEWS TP2, $99. TP2 Gen 3. They look similar to the Mach rods, just black. But if you look here, they don't have any light power or medium lights. But if you go to the spec sheet, look at that 6'8" medium, 1/8 ounce to 1/2 ounce fast action. Definitely BFS specs. 7 foot medium, fast action, 1/8 ounce to 1/2 ounce. It's pretty much just like those Mach 3 rods. It looks like the exact same lineup, just in this TP2. Once again, only $99. Very budget friendly. Okay, so a little bit more expensive, but the LEWS LFS casting rods. $130. Got cork instead of that rubberized grip. And check this out. 7 foot medium light, fast action, 1/8 ounce to 3/8 ounce. 6'8" medium, fast action, 1/8 ounce to 1/2 ounce. 7 foot medium, 1/8 ounce to 1/2 ounce, fast action on all of them. So this goes to show you, just because a rod doesn't have the BFS label stamped onto it, doesn't mean it's not BFS capable. You just have to look at the lure rating. Okay, so LEWS American Hero, look at this, $60. And they got at least one rod that looks like it's going to be good for BFS bass fishing. 6'8", medium light, fast action, 1/8 ounce to 3/8 ounce. This is even cheaper than the Mach, only 60 bucks. Now, of course, it's not listed as a quote-unquote BFS rod, but it'll work. All right, so the last rods I'm going to show you is a new company. I think they're new. Level Fishing. I never heard of them before, but Level Fishing NGX, $169.99. So not budget, but these are some good looking rods. All black. It's got a butt section that looks to be a copy of the Guggen rods. But let's take a look here. Has anyone heard of Level Fishing? Are they new? Did they just come out this year? But anyway, if we go to their lineup, okay, 6'10" medium light, extra fast. It's right down my alley. That's pretty much the exact same specs as my Poison ADRENA BFS rod, 1/8 ounce, 1/2 ounce. And then they have one here. They call it a medium, 7 foot fast, 1/16 ounce to 3/8 ounce. That's even more BFS spec than the medium light. They call it a medium. Okay, and they have a medium heavy that supposedly goes down to 3/16 of an ounce. So not all of these rods that could potentially be Bait Finesse bass capable are gonna have the Bait Finesse logo or acronym stamped on them. And I think that's it for what I found. Now, if you go and have the time and the patience, you can actually go through all the rods on Tackle Warehouse. Go and check out the rod lineup, and you'll find a lot of rods that can definitely do Bait Finesse bass fishing. They just don't have the label put on them. Alright guys, so that's it for the Bait Finesse coverage of this year's Icast. In my opinion, once again, far more significant than last year because they've released a lot of rods that will fill that big gap that the market was missing, which is budget Bait Finesse rods for bass fishing. Alright, so I think I'm only going to do maybe one more video showing you all the new cool reels that are released from other companies. And then I'm going to get to the Hybo Arise Ultra Air. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks a lot.